Thank you, TJ. Pleasure to be here. So STEPS works to create an inclusive society with a focus on employment equity. We do all of the three things that Alison outlined in their findings. So we are both providing accessible and appropriate accredited training to the neurodivergent community. We are modeling a range of sustainable and inclusive businesses, and we are working with employers to hand over that knowledge and enable them to become inclusive employers. And in addition to that, our own inclusive sustainable businesses provide employment opportunities for our trainees and our graduates. It's very important for us that we model this and that it remains sustainable. This is something that is no easy task, but is something that we've managed to do and do rather well over the past 5 years. And partnering with those organizations is a key part for us. So larger employers who have an appetite to operate these businesses and grow them once we prove the concept is an area that we're now emerging into and is proving quite successful. This builds trust with the business community, we then support to champion inclusion themselves to other organizations, which is where we see the larger change. In terms of the positive impact for the neurodivergent community, 100% of our graduates move on to either sustainable paid employment or further education, having attained the skills and most importantly, the self-confidence and the self-esteem to do so. So the immediate positive impact we see is that they are then accepted for who they are and not asked to adapt or change their behaviors and taught to value themselves, which then enables them to go on and be the value-adding employees that we know they can be. The longer-term impact comes from the employers and the wider society valuing the neurodivergent attributes that we're talking about and learning how to create inclusive workplaces themselves.
Thank you very much, Max. I really like what you shared about, them being accepted for who they are. I think that is so important.
Yeah. So when we initially founded STEPS, the idea was to provide training, model one inclusive business, just one, which at the time was a cafe, and then help our graduates move on to our partner companies who we were supporting. But our graduates didn't want to leave. So we had to rethink the model entirely. And that's partly because the quota system in Thailand requires companies with 100 employees to hire one person with a disability. And our graduates are going back to us saying that they don't want to be the one in 100. They want to work for truly inclusive organizations, which is what we were modeling. So it then became our challenge to solve this innovation, as TJ put it. So the first thing we did was create a franchise model, which empowered some of our graduates' families to then go on and run franchises. Then we decided to open more cafes ourselves. And then that led to different types of social inclusive businesses, including retail shops and business outsource services, because we felt quite passionately about not pigeonholing our graduates into certain industries. They should have the opportunity to gain transferable skills and go on into any sector. And by doing this actually helped us to reach where we are today. So as I mentioned in the beginning, it's always been critical to us that we are modeling inclusive and sustainable business. But the more of those that we've done, and the longer that we've been doing it for and demonstrate that we make a profit, the more that the business case has been demonstrated and employers are much more open to work with us and hear about how that they could then go and champion this themselves, because we're still here. I sit in many meetings, especially in the last year, where there's a look of surprise on employment partners' faces. Oh, you're still here and through a pandemic. Oh, and you're still sustainable and you're still inclusive. If you can do it, then we should be able to do it, which is exactly what we're trying to advocate for. So I think, yes, difficult times such as COVID do force us to rethink how we do it. And the more that all of us, all the fantastic speakers that have shared today, keep doing what we do, I hope that it encourages the wider society to embrace it also and do it themselves. I think, don't be rigid in your thinking. We're talking about something that it's very difficult for anybody to position themselves as an expert on. I always sort of hate this term. Inclusion means different things to different people. When we look at inclusion in the workplace, we're looking at it in different stages, right? It's stage one is to be able to access the job advert in the first place. That's the the main port of failure on many is job adverts aren't accessible themselves, the way they're written, the platforms they're posted on. So when we're talking about this process of creating inclusive employment, it goes through many stages. And as Alison shared, and I'm sure the other panelists agree, it is a lot easier than people perceive it to be. So keep pushing for it and demonstrating it. And as Nicola said, capture your impact, because that's what they're looking for. They want to be able to see that it's been done and that they can easily do it too. And then once you begin, continue working with them, because it's not a finished case. Once somebody gets a job, you have to continue going into support, because people's needs change and so do working environments, just as they do for you and I.